The biggest issue you have with the array module in Python is that it does not allow creation of 2D arrays. So we can only create single dimension array, 1D array. So what you can do is you can import the array module, and then you can create an array using that module. And here you have to specify what type array that you want. So I here stands for the unsigned integer. So we cannot have a sign. And then what you can do is you can access certain things of that array. So here you can access the very first element. So it's 0 index based. And then you can add a new element. So 60 here, and you can insert an element at a specific index. So what this will do is this will actually move the existing element at index 2 down by 1. So I'll go to 3, and it will add in this element 25 at index 2. So it won't delete anything or overwrite anything, and just shift the values down. And then here, remove, and then pop hole will remove the last one by default. So here, what you're basically doing is a popping, but if you want to pop a specific one, so something at position 2, you can just put that position here. And then you can iterate through an array like this. So let's run this code to just walk through it in more detail. So as you can see here, when I do this bit of code here, accessing the first element, which is 10. So you can see that 10 there, and we're accessing that using this notation syntax here. And then in terms of appending, so this is now where you use the append function, and you add 60. So that just gets added on at the end. And here, after inserting 25 at index 2. So if you look at our here, so we add in index, we want to add this number at this index. Here you've got 10, 20, 25. And notice before at index 2, so this is 0, 1, 2, we previously had the number 30, so that's just shifted down by 1, and that's how this works. It doesn't replace anything. And then what you have is removing an array, so removing 30. So this is now not the position, this is actually going to go and remove the value 30. So if you look at that, after 25, we had 30, and if you look at this now, it's going to remove 30 there. And the pop basically removes the last value, so we had 60 as the last value, and we just popped that value, so it removes it. And then when you loop through this list using the for loop, you can see 60 is no longer there. This is how arrays work in Python. But remember, the biggest issue with this array module is it only allows the creation of one dimension array. So that's the biggest limitation of this that you should be aware of. So this is the equivalent of a list. Most people just use a list now, but this is there. If you see it somewhere in the code, it's good to be aware of this array module and then what you can do with it and what are its limitations. So I hope this helps you out. This is how you do 2D arrays in Python. So you must use the Numpy module because the array module doesn't allow the creation of 2D arrays that easily. With Numpy, it's very easy to create a 2D array. So what does a 2D array actually look like? This is what a 2D array looks like. So you've got rows going down and columns across. It's a bit like a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. So you can see here, rows here, and this is how you can access the individual elements. So if you want to access what's in column 2, row 1, then you would use row 0. Because although it's row 1, it's 0 index based. So you start at 0, that'll be your first row. 1, that'll be your second row. 2 will be your third row. So it's always starting at 0. And then this is your column. So this column is 0 column, and this is column 1, and this is column 2, this is column 3. So how you do them in Python is pretty much the same. So here you've got the row 0, row 1, row 2. So you've got 3 rows in the actual, but remember it's always start at 0. So that's why you're counting 0, 1, 2. And then these are the columns going across. So you should see 1, 2, 3. But again, the index of them, if you access it starting from 0. So this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. So if I run this code and you can see what output will you get when you do this 0 and 1. Well, that will give you row 0. So there, this will be the first number is the row. So row number 0 is this one. And then column number indexed at 1. So this is index 1. So column number 1. So column number 1 is not this one. It's actually this one. So here you've got 0, this is 1, and this is 2. So here, that's why you get the output of 2 here. And this is how the 2D arrays are declared here. So you just use the NumPy library, and then you've got numpy.array function, and that will give you output here over array. And then you can access the elements like this using the variable name and the index number. And this is what you're aiming for. This is a 2D array. Just think of it as a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, rows going down, columns going across. So I hope this makes sense. And then this is how you access the individual elements, and then you get the relevant output here. 3D arrays are very important to understand in Python. So we know what a 2D array looks like. This is what a 2D array looks like. It looks like an Excel spreadsheet. You've got columns across and rows going down, and then this is how you access the individual element of an array. So cell 0, 0 means it's the first column, first row. How do you get or understand 3D arrays? In Python, this is how it's declared. This is a view of a 3D array. So imagine 2D array is a single sheet in Excel, but 3D array is actually multiple sheets in Excel. So sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. So here you can see sheet 1 is actually simply a 2D array. Sheet 2 is actually also a 2D array. And this is how you access it. So the first reference of this one is, well, this is going to be the first sheet. So 0, 0, 0, which refers to the first column. And then if you look at that 0, 0, 1, then that means it's the second layer here because it's 0 index space. And of course 0, 0, 3. So that's how I would understand 3D arrays. Just think of them as multiple Excel sheets because this is what a 2D array looks like. And if you have multiple versions of this, then that becomes a 3D array. Now let's see how do you actually declare that in Python. Just as you would do with a 2D array. So you declare this is row 0, row 1, row 2, and then columns, column 0, column 1, column 2. So that's your first sheet, and you can see it's surrounded within these square brackets. And then if you want the second sheet, and this is what I would call it layer 0. So if you go back to our Excel example, this is the first sheet or the first layer. Then you've got the second layer and third layer. So here we're going to do a second layer so that you can think of it as a second sheet. So this would be a second sheet, and you can see here row 0, row 1, row 2, column 1, column 2, column 3. So this is how the 3D array is declared. So you can see it's now layer 1 and layer 0. And then this is all surrounded in this square bracket. So this means it's a 3D array. So going back to 2D array, this is what it looks like. And if you have multiple versions of it, that means it's 3D array. And this is exactly what we've done. If we just had this bit here, then that simply would be a 2D array. But because we've got another square bracket here and another square bracket here, and within here, we've got two sets of those 2D arrays. And that's what makes it a 3D array. So here we can see things like if I run this, and as you can see that we can see the shape of this array. So the shape of this array is we've got 2, 3, 3, and this is the output we go here, 2, 3, 3. This is the shape. So that means it's 2 layers, 3 rows, 3 columns of the shape of the array is. You can check the number of dimensions. So again, when you use end dim, that means it's 3, which means it's 3D array. And here we can access the element like this. So this is going to be layer 0 and layer 1. So here, this is how you reference it. And as you can see here, the values that we get are 6 for this one because we're looking at layer 0. So that will be this one, the first one. We're looking at row number 1. So row number 1 here is actually going to be this one. And then we're looking at column number 2. So this will be, you go here and this will be 0, this will be 1, this will be 2. And then this is how you get your 6 here. So this is how, so just think of them as multiple Excel sheets, while a 2D array is a single Excel sheet. And it's very simple to understand in Python.